is in looking after international recruitment. And we currently have, I think it's about 35 boys from Hong Kong at the school. In fact, quite a few of them are staying here now over the ECAs weekend and having a great time. I watched them play table tennis last night, and it's pretty impressive. So we love having boys here from overseas, and particularly from Hong Kong or mainland China. They just offer a kind of freshness to the school, whether they come in year 9 or year 10 or in the 6th form. They obviously bring academic independence and clout, but equally they are increasingly contributing in many areas of school life. Recently we had an 8-man debating team, and 5 of those boys were from Hong Kong, which was an extraordinary achievement. Some of them, well, a lot of them, it wasn't their first language, of course. In return, I think what you will see by your son coming to a school like this is you will see their confidence grow, their ability to get on with a wide range of people. And I absolutely see that. I see a small boy arriving, age 13, and who can hardly say a word. And by the end, he's looking people in the eye, he's shaking hand, or when he's allowed to. He's so much more socially confident. And that confidence comes from a boarding community, obviously. It comes from the classes, but it really comes a lot from the extracurricular program. And that's really what I'm going to talk about here today. Their involvement with other boys in different sort of situations, whether it's a completely new activity they're doing or something they're really good at, but they're mixing and they're evolving with other boys. So I'm going to talk about the range of activities we have here and reasons why we think they're important. But if you will just bear with me, I'm going to just indulge a little bit of information about Radley. And the first slide is wrong because we're not 690 boys anymore. Sorry, I only spotted that just seconds ago. We're now at 740. We've opened a new boarding house, so we've got 11 boarding houses. Any school will put 3 things as its pillars. It will have pastoral care, it will have academic success, and it will have extracurricular. Now, to be honest, as a parent, the thing you will want to have right is the pastoral care. That's got to be at the center of everything. The well-being of your child has to be the most important thing, and you should get that at any good boarding school in England. But the other 2 are right up there in terms of your child's development. So that's a picture of some boys. We are very, very close to Oxford. We're about 3 miles from Oxford. And that's why they wear those gowns. The Oxford students wear the gowns for their final exams. Many of the traditions at Radley are based on Oxford. So we call the boarding houses, we call them socials, which is from Latin socialis, meaning junior common room. We have very close links with the university through academia, through debating and things like that, going to lectures, but also through some sports as well. So we are blessed with an incredibly beautiful site. It's around about 700 acres. Therefore, if at Radley every boy has approximately an acre to himself, I'm told that if Hong Kong was flattened and everyone had an equal share, everyone would have a square meter to themselves. So, and they come here and they love the space. And again, we're not unique. So forgive me sounding a bit of an advert for Radley, but we're not unique. You'll find us at so many schools. They'll get out the car on day one. We had a boy arrive, in fact, it was for the quarantine period. He got out the car, he just opened his arms out and said, "This is so exciting, just the space, the greenery to get around." If you look in the distance, you'll see Oxford. And if you look in the foreground, you'll see a boarding house where we were based, and also the extraordinary games pitches. And the facilities at British schools are second to none. It's quite extraordinary. There has been a bit of an arms race in terms of facilities over the last 20 years. So you'll see wonderful sports halls, you'll see sort of climbing walls, you'll see great swimming pools. Thing we are blessed with is all that, but equally our pitches, I think, I say modestly, are probably the best in the country. They are fantastic. I just left that one in because it's such a pretty picture. You can see the college pond there, and that is the 8th golf hole for keen golfers, plays over the pond. And the boys sometimes do a little sort of scuba dive and collect sackfuls of balls out of there. Quite a few schools have golf courses, I would say. I can do off the top of my head about 5 or 6 that I know about. There's probably more than that. So just a quick word on the academic before we move on to the co-curricular. We're around about 90% A star to B. We've been up to 93% last year and a couple of years ago as well. It depends on the cohort. You keep pushing. It's all about aspiration though. It's all about the boys at the lower to middle end who we bring on to get those B grades or even get those A grades. And it's all about great teaching and about great relationships in the classroom. And finally, on the academic, a lot of boys coming from Hong Kong are extremely good at mathematics, and it is an extraordinary department. So it says there 2 dons teach undergraduates at Oxford along with their school teaching, and a lot of boys go from the top further maths set to Oxford or Cambridge. But we're here really to talk, and that's the end of the advert really, well, sort of. We're here to talk about co-curricular, whoops, go back one, and music. Let's start with music, which is such a key part of a lot of boys' lives. And it's difficult to underestimate the importance of music. What a great skill it is. It just shows a boy's willingness to put in the hours. It shows a boy's willingness to be part of a team. And it also says an awful lot about the way he can perform under pressure. It is extraordinary training to perform under pressure. I see these boys doing solo concerts and I'm just blown away. They've got a big audience in front of them. They've got to control their fine motor skills, control their nerve, control their heartbeat, and perform. And they do perform really well. So music is such a great skill to learn at a young age. I didn't. I was more of a sportsman, but I started playing the double bass when I was 40. I had to play in one concert. There were just 3 of us, 2 violinists and me. And I've never been so terrified in my life. I was absolutely awful. But the boys do very well. So you will know that. You will understand that, I'm sure, quite apart from the beauty of the sound and everything else. It's such a great skill for life. So that is one of the sections in the orchestra, the flute section. And you'll see 3 boys there, and you'll see 4 boys, I think, one's half hidden, who are from Hong Kong. In the flute section. Part of the beauty of being an all-boys school is that, of course, girls tend to be very, very good at these sort of things at quite a young age. So it's quite nice that a boy can arrive with us and he might only be, I don't know, grade 4 or something like that, good though that is, but he wouldn't get into an orchestra, possibly an all-girls school or a co-ed school even. But he gets in the orchestra and my goodness, he gets better. So again, it's about aspirations, about having opportunities to improve. We have a whole range of different groups around the place. We have jazz groups. We have things called coffee concerts every week. We have swing band, big band, etc., etc. So, and again, most schools will provide that. The choir is terribly important to us. We have a choir of over 100. Increasingly well represented by boys from Hong Kong. Choir, one of the things that's nice about these kind of schools is that you don't have to be a first 15 rugby player or even a top academic or whatever it is to earn the respect of others. And being part of something like a choir does earn you a huge amount of kudos. The other boys respect the beautiful sound that comes from the choir. They also lead the singing in chapel, which is really important to us and to other schools as well. So moving on from music to drama, this is Sweeney Todd, in case you're worried, it looks like a sort of assassination attempt. There are huge numbers of opportunities to take part in drama, and we do a musical every other year. And if I'm honest, it's probably the one area where boys from Hong Kong or China are not massively well represented. I'm just not sure that they feel they can do it often, which I think is a real shame. I'd like to see it more because, as I said, there are opportunities. And a bit like music. Why is drama important? Well, it's the teamwork, it's the discipline, but it also, I think, brings out a whole side to a boy's character that you might not know is there. I can think of one boy who came to my boarding house from a state school, in fact, and this was quite a big change. He was on a big bursary, and he was very, very shy, never said a word really most of his first year. And then gradually you saw his confidence develop. And in his last year, he won a thing called declamations, which some schools do, where you have to learn a piece and declaim it in front of your year group. And he also had a leading part in the school play. And I remember seeing him walk on and do his part brilliantly. And it was, so it was, the drama, I think, can bring out a special side to the boys. It is also, from their point of view, a good way to meet girls, and they rather like that as well. This was a junior play we did recently. When the boys arrive here, they are part of a drama competition, and I think a lot of schools do the same kind of thing. They put on a piece after, they've only been at the school about 3 or 4 weeks, and they put on a little piece of drama. And again, like the other things we've been talking about, it's not necessarily the sportsman, it's perhaps the quieter boy who shows something a little bit different on the stage, and he gets to know the other boys in his year group well. They earn respect, and they have a lot of fun as well. So that was a whole school production of a musical, which is very colourful and enjoyable. Art, let's move on to art. Art, I think, is particularly useful because this time, perhaps we're not talking about teamwork, we're talking about individual skills. One of the questions we're often asked on the admissions side is, what sort of boy is suited to Radley? And I would say, what sort of boy is suited to any boarding school, really? I always say 2 things. One is, I think that it's something that he wants to do. He wants to really invest in 5 years at the school, and both his parents want to do the same thing. That might sound an obvious statement, but it isn't always true. There can be a push from more one side than the other. The other thing I think is he has to like to be busy. And art's one of those things. On a Sunday afternoon or something like that, he can go into the art studios and spend time working on a project. There'll be someone there just to supervise him. And I think that's really important. And again, it's sometimes as a boy or girl, you can get pigeonholed. You can be someone that's only good at sport, only good at academics. When they come to school like this, they can have the opportunity to try something new, try something that they didn't know they were good at. And I wish I'd learned art when I was at school, I have to say. So we put art everywhere around the school, and you'll see it at a lot of schools. And it really brightens the place up in all departments. And I teach chemistry, and we've got a huge amount of artwork up on our walls. It's lovely to see. And there'll be all sorts of different ways of doing the art. Obviously, you have the pottery, the model building, apart from the usual painting. So on to sport, and a huge number of sports are played at British schools. We do rowing, rugby, hockey, cricket, football and tennis as our sort of major participation sports, but there's a huge range of other sports. We mentioned golf earlier, any number of racket sports. We had a boy come recently from Hong Kong in the bottom rugby team in his year group in his first year, and he finished the term in the top team. And we're seeing that more and more, that it can be rugby or rowing or sports perhaps you didn't expect, again, something they didn't expect to be good at, they find they are. And health and fitness generally is something that is quite rightly quite a buzz around in Britain. A lot of young people, when they leave school, they go to gyms and things like that. So getting them used to looking after their body and therefore keeping their mental fitness as well is really important. We've got a high-tech rowing tank. We do actually have a boy from mainland China who's pushing for a place in the first 8 this year, which is really nice. Football, a lot of the boys like football, which is great. It's not by no means vital they like football, but it kind of is a good thing, because a lot often in a boarding house, a boy will say, let's go and have a kick around, and it's nice if the boy likes to do that. It's not a major sport for us, but we do have about 180 boys representing the school on match days on most Saturdays in the Lent term. Tennis is increasingly popular, and boys are well represented from all parts of the world on that one. But it's not just tennis, we have real tennis, we have squash, badminton, fives, you name a kind of ball sport, we do it, as do a lot of schools. Now here's a sport where you don't see many boys from Hong Kong. It's a sport that Radley's pretty good at, and we've had a couple of captains of the England cricket side go to the school. I would like to see at some stage, and I'm going to keep tabs on this, to see a boy from Hong Kong or mainland China in the first 11. It might take a few years. I have to say they're not pushing at the moment. There's just a couple more sports pictures, just moving along swiftly. Badminton, it's a traditional sport for Hong Kong boys, and they're very good at it, and they have the opportunity to do it, which is lovely. And it's great. Yeah, they need some things that are familiar to them, the badminton or the table tennis, in addition to trying something new. Now, Outward Bounds is something that could be something completely new to boys. We have a CCF section, as do a lot of schools. We do the Duke of Edinburgh Award, which again is pretty much most schools do the Duke of Edinburgh Award. And these expeditions are memorable. I have to say, I can still remember mine vividly 45 years ago. I remember the rain. Actually, I do remember bright sunshine as well. I remember the insects. I remember the food that wasn't very good. But I do remember, just in the end, you look back and you think, even though you have blisters on your feet and things, you've had a fantastic time. There is nothing more bonding than with a group of boys. You've overcome adversity. You've walked a long way. You've learned some important skills as well in terms of looking after yourself with having to read a compass and a map, how to put up a tent and all those sort of skills. But it's more important is that you just have this fantastic bonding exercise with your team. So Outward Bounds is a great thing. So Co-Curricular isn't just all about sort of activities and movement. It's also about smaller, sort of quieter clubs. This is the film unit. But you'd expect, we have which is, if you look at our videos on our website, they're all made by boys, overseen by member staff, of course, but they do learn great skills. We have quite a few people go on into the film industry from the school, actually. But you've got a whole range of societies. We've got things such as philosophy, journalism, water polo, clay pigeon shooting, contract bridge, horse racing, wine tasting, you name it. We do it, as do an awful lot of schools. It is just part of the richness of the place. So just coming to the end of the 20 minutes now, I'll just finish with that picture because it's such a great picture from our coffee shop. So let me just summarize 4 quick points to finish off. So co-curricular, it's the reason a lot of families want to send their child over to Britain. It's what the boys want, and it is what we do. The skills learned from the co-curricular program will be make your son a more rounded and, dare I say, more interesting person. It will undoubtedly be something that a future employer will be interested in. A friend of mine works on the recruitment side for Vodafone, and yeah, he'd expect them all to have A grades. He'd expect them all to have 2-1 or better degree. What he wants to see is what kind of person are they? What are they interested in? What do they do that they don't have to do? Do they make the effort to go and play the music, to be in the sports team, to do the society? How interesting are they? Do they make him laugh? And often those sort of skills are learned through these activities. At school, boys don't have to be the best at everything. It's about aspiration, and they can be very poor at something, but they come to somewhere like this and they learn to get good at it. And finally, like you speak to anyone, I bet you turn around now and speak to someone, what's your life like? They'll say busy. Life is busy. Life is used to doing lots of things, and balancing academic, sport and co-curricular is great training for life. Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of my talk, and we can have some questions, but the contact details are below. Thanks.
Thank you, Harry, and thank you for your presentation. Certainly a beautiful campus. So we'll begin the Q&A session now. So the first question is, what are the years of entry available at Radley, and how many places are offered for those overseas entry?
Okay, sure. Can you say the start of the question again, Wallace?
Yes, so what are the years of entry that's available at Radley?
Okay, so years of entry, I mean, the main point of entry is year 9, which is when we have an intake of 140, 150 boys. We do take some boys in year 10, but I would, if you're thinking of coming over, I should definitely look to go in year 9. Year 10, it depends, it varies, maybe about 8 boys, something like that. And then the other point of entry is the start of the 6th form. So that's year 12, where now that we've got another boarding house, instead of taking our usual kind of 8 or 10, we're now taking 20, 25. So that is an important point of entry. And we welcome applicants there. We welcome points at those 3 points, but mainly year 9 and mainly year 12. And in terms of assessment, as parents probably know, a lot of boys are now being assessed when they're in year 6, is when we do the ISEB common pretest. And that's when decisions are made for when they're in year 9. But you can apply any time through year 6, 7, or 8, because obviously there's a scholarship in year 8 as well.
Thank you, Harry. And furthermore to that question, how many places do you offer each year?
How many places?
Yes, are offered, correct.
In total. So, well, for year 9 entry, as I said, it's 140, 150 boys come in. Year 10, 8 to 10 boys, 6th form, 20, 25.
Great, thank you. And then to add on to that question, how does the application process look for an applicant, especially from someone that's interested in applying from Hong Kong?
Okay. The application process said should start ideally, parents are thinking about it in year 6 is a good time to think about it. They contact the school. In the old days, pre-COVID, they'd come and visit. As I think Jennifer said quite rightly, that is by far the best thing to do, is to come over and visit schools. Now, we can't do that at the moment, so there's lots of virtual tours and things going on. If possible, it's got to be a good thing, I would think, to come over to the country for possibly years 7 and 8 as well. And secondary schools will help coordinate that with the prep school to direct them to various prep schools where they can go. I know it's not for everyone, but I think it's good to do 2 years so they kind of learn the ropes when they're young, they make friends, and then they move on to the school with those friends. For 6th form, the application is in November prior to entry, so it's quite a later entry. All schools will assess in November prior to the following September.
Thank you, Harry. And for those that are applying, how should they prepare? Like, what kind of boys are you looking for?
Okay, that's a great question. And the answer is, and any school, well, I hope would say this, is that we're not looking for any kind of boy. We're just looking for somebody that really wants to come and someone that we feel will benefit from the school. It's really important that I think often you hear the word fit used. He'll be a good fit. That's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for a type to fit into a certain pigeonhole. We're looking for someone who can come here who will, they've got to cope with it because, they've got to fly thousands of miles and they've got to show independence, which is why I think we really admire these boys coming from Hong Kong, because they show that. They've got to have that ability. They've got to, we think, be able to get along with other boys. Obviously, that is important. So they've got to have, I think, a certain amount of social ability, because we don't want someone, and parents don't want it either, for someone who's going to lock themselves in their study and just just work for 5 years. So we've got to feel somebody that will take advantage of what we've got here. So there is there's absolutely no type. I think what we would all say, I think, is that when they leave at the end of 5 years, they will have certain attributes in common, and those things such as sociability, such as an interest in other people, such as a kindness and generosity, which I think boarding brings out, because you have to be like that to get along. You come here as a bit of a kind of, I don't know, sort of look at me type person, you're not going to get on too well. So boarding's very good at sort of learning those softer skills, but definitely there's no type. In terms of preparation, I would say part of the application process is an interview. So I just think not excessive interview practice. That is the death knell of any application. But I would say getting used to talking to people, just around the dinner table, talking about stuff, being used to having opinions and things like that. That's an important thing for the interview process. The rest of the application is about realizing the kind of papers they're going to have to sit and doing a certain amount of practice at them, of course. And the other thing is to get a nice report from your school. So do lots of good things at their school so they get a nice report.
Thank you, Harry. And the next question is more related to your presentation. Now, regarding extracurriculars and co-curriculars, the first question is, some of these trips that you've shown, such as Outward Bound and the travels, is that included or is that an extra charge? And then the second question for co-curriculars is, how does Radley balance the student's life with co-curriculars and academics, and is there any guidance program or help given by the school?
Okay, in terms of the charges, for trips like that for the CCF, I think there would be maybe a small charge. I don't think very much. I mean, those trips are not massively expensive to run because the boys are camping, so it's just a transfer getting up and back. But I mean, very little for that sort of thing. The charges would come more for the trip. Say, perhaps you're flying with the History of Art group, you're going up to Florence. Obviously, there's going to be a charge for that sort of trip. For sports trips and things like that, yes, there would be a charge. But for things such as CCF, I think, if anything, it's very small. I don't think it's a big deal. So I wouldn't concern yourself about that. We want the boys to get out and about. Often it's a case of just driving their minibus and dumping them somewhere and letting them camp and things. So no, very small is the answer for that stuff. The other question you asked, it's already gone out of my head. What was it you asked about?
How does the school help balance between academics? Yes.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, so when the boy arrives, he would have a housemaster who is his key person for 5 years. There's no doubt about it. The housemaster will know your son really well. He'll know you. He'll know your other children. He'll know your dog's name or whatever. So the housemaster gets to know the child really well. Now, every housemaster would encourage the boy to do lots of things. He will also have an overview of the academics, and the reports come in regularly. Every school will be doing internal reports probably every quarter of term. So you get lots of internal reports. You get lots of feedback from teachers. If it's not working out, if a boy's overstretched, then we need to come in and check that the schedule works. And it could be that you say, look, you've got too much on, you need to give that up. Normally, it's amazing what boys can achieve. What I've just said, sometimes is a problem. Often, I think boys take on more and they continue to thrive. It's the old thing about give a job to a busy man. So the boy that's in the rowing 8 and it means he gets into that rowing 8 and it means his work improves. Even though he's putting in more time to the sport, the kind of discipline and the physical well-being has improved his work. So I'm not a great believer that, oh, he's too busy, it's affecting his work. Nah, normally they're busy, they work more efficiently. Every day you've got 24 hours, you can divide it in between 8 hours of organized activities like lessons or lunch or chapel or games. You've got 8 hours of sleep, hopefully. That leaves 8 hours in a day to do stuff. And it's all about efficiency of time, not about the activities, I think.
Harry, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for your expertise. Now, before I let you go, do you have any parting words for our guests?
No, I mean, only to say, as I'm sure a lot of people are saying, we just look forward to seeing you again. We love having visitors here. We love visiting Hong Kong and meeting you there. So let's hope this clears soon and we can see each other in person.